Mr. President, I move the motion standing in my name. Thank you. Mr. President, this motion notes that in February 2025, the Malinauskas government announced plans to redevelop the North Adelaide golf course in order to secure the future of live golf in the state. It notes that the redevelopment will cost taxpayers at least $45 million and result in the destruction of 585 trees. It notes the future of live golf is in doubt, and there are media reports that Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund has ceased its support while the live golf tournament in New Orleans has been postponed. It notes South Australians are struggling with the increased cost of living, with the costs of fuel, groceries, power, rent and mortgages continuing to rise. And it calls on the Malinauskas government to cancel the North Adelaide golf course redevelopment and instead allocate the $45 million to measures to assist South Australians in dealing with the cost of living crisis. And it calls on the government to return the Adelaide parklands annexed for development to the management of the Adelaide City Council. Now, Mr. President, in moving this motion, I think it's important that we revisit some of the events that have led up to this point. Let's not forget, back in February last year, and I remember the huge fanfare when the Honourable Ms Game and the Honourable Connie Benares announced that they were going to be supporting live golf coming to South Australia and supporting legislation in this parliament to enable the redevelopment of the North Adelaide golf course so that the government could keep live golf here in South Australia. That was the rationale for the piece of legislation that was rushed through this parliament. And indeed, in introducing the bill into this chamber, the Deputy Premier made clear in his introduction and first reading that the legislation will, and I quote from Hansard, ensure the redevelopment of the North Adelaide golf course can go ahead as soon as possible to host the Live Golf Adelaide tournament in 2028. So the rationale was very, very clear. This was a golf course redevelopment to support live. Well, we now know, Mr. President, that live golf is very unlikely to go ahead. It is unravelling before our very eyes. We know that the golf course tournament in New Orleans has been postponed. And indeed, over in that jurisdiction, Governor Jess Landry and Louisiana Economic Development Secretary Susan Bourgeois said in a joint statement that their state had already paid $3.2 million under a contract with Live Golf, of which $2 million has already been invested in upgrades to the City Park course that was scheduled. And that state is now seeking compensation from Live Golf. They're seeking $1.2 million for losses that they have incurred on the redevelopment. And we know from media reports just last week that now the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund are withdrawing their support. So it's not likely to go ahead in 2028. And yet the Malinauskas government persists. Well, this is another one of the Premier's vanity projects. It's another Labor lemon, another Labor white elephant that the Labor Party has insisted on, despite the fact that the business case does not exist. Now, we know it doesn't exist, Mr. President, because I called for a production of documents so that we could get an opportunity to view it before we voted on special legislation. We didn't get a chance to see it. I also recall, Mr. President, I asked questions on behalf of the Greens in this chamber about the heads of agreement between Live Golf and the Malinauskas government. What were the terms of the agreement with Live Golf and the Malinauskas government? What were the terms of the agreement between the Malinauskas government and Greg Norman Designs? How much money has already been spent on this Labor vanity project, Mr. President? These questions were not answered by the government when they rushed this legislation through the parliament last year. They're still refusing to provide those answers to the people of South Australia. This motion is not ideological. It's a simple proposition urging the government to scrap this redevelopment plan and instead spend the money on cost of living relief for South Australians that are struggling. How on earth can the Malinowskis government justify spending $45 million to redevelop a golf course, cutting down over 500 trees, redevelop a golf course for a tournament that isn't even likely to go ahead? How on earth can the government justify that whilst we have a record number of South Australians sleeping on the street, struggling to get into the housing market, while we have a record number of South Australians struggling to afford the basics, struggling to put food on the table, struggling to pay power bills, struggling to pay their rent, struggling to make mortgage payments? How on earth can this Labor government that purports to represent working people justify spending $45 million on a golf course redevelopment? It's a slap in the face to South Australians that are doing it tough at the moment, and it demonstrates Labor's warped priorities. Focusing on the big events, focusing on the good times and the parties, rather than focusing on the core issues that are facing South Australians. Now, when I was a kid, my mum always used to say to me, "Rob, you can have dessert, but you've got to eat your mains first. You've got to get the basics right first, Mr. President." And these are the basics that the Labor Party have neglected. Whether it's ramping, whether it's ensuring that every South Australian can have a roof over their head and a place to call home, whether it's getting our rental market under control, whether it's investing in the public services that we need and having public ownership of our electricity, whether it's rolling out free public transport and actually showing leadership on the fuel crisis, these are the things that the Labor Party is failing to tackle. And $45 million on a golf course just does not make sense. And so this is an early test for this chamber. I do plan to bring this motion to a vote in the next sitting week, and it is an opportunity for all members on this chamber to send a very clear statement to the Labor government as they craft their next budget around what we see collectively as our priorities. Isn't about ideology, it's about putting the people of South Australia first ahead of Labor vanity projects like this. Government should only ever be cutting down hundreds and hundreds of trees when there is a really good reason to do so. And it's hard to see how on earth this government could justify destroying so many trees at the moment, and it is hard to see how this government can possibly justify spending tens of millions of dollars to lure a tournament to our state when we already know that it has Buckley's chance of going ahead. So I commend the motion. I will bring it to a vote next sitting, and I hope that members will support it.